How can we start to face our fears gradually? What happens after we build up our confidence? This time, I spoke with Karin Bleiweiss. She's a social designer working in between tech, humanities, entrepreneurship, and design. I am José Antonio Morales, and you are listening to a Deconstructing Fear interview.
I considered myself as a young woman as not very fearful. So, I felt like I'm doing stuff that was unusual. And over the years, I realized that I was hesitant, actually. I didn't feel fear, but I was hesitant to do some things. So I was like, okay, what's that? And one thing I was always a bit hesitant or had like an uneasy feeling was I always wanted to travel, like I was traveling a lot, but I always wanted to travel the world and like see like really unusual places and travel off, let's say, the usual routes. And so over the years, I made this list of places I wanted to see or experiences I wanted to make, but always had the kind of uneasy feeling. And the list grew and grew and grew. And I was in a permanent job. I was like having a quite comfy life. So like the kind of hesitation gets a bit bigger then to leave this kind of surrounding. And then I actually at one point I was like, okay, if I don't do it, and if I keep waiting for like somebody who would join me on this kind of trip, I will never do it. And I decided then to quit my job and design a journey around the experiences and countries that I had on my list. So I actually went for a year around the world. I have been to 12 different countries. I have lived in different countries. And I did almost all the experiences that I was hesitant to have or like to do. So I think I did not feel like not brave first or like fearful, but like something was holding me back still. But then when I started, I designed the journey in a way that like the kind of threshold or the uneasiness would raise over the journey. So for example, in the beginning I would travel in Europe, then I went to Africa, then I went to Asia, then I went to the Middle East. So I knew that I needed kind of comforting elements in it. So in the beginning there were more comforting elements, and the longer the journey went on, the more less comforting elements were there. And what's amazing is like I think I could not imagine before to travel alone as a woman to like all these places and have, stay with people that I didn't know, or like work in a country that I had no idea about, or to to just go and like see what the day will bring. And like because I was so in like the normal working routine that seemed a bit, you know out of focus. But the longer I went, the more um, excited, or the more brave probably I got. And I think what also happened is, like, especially now, if I look back, I think what that journey brought with it is that I feel like we as humans, or I specifically, I can live in all kinds of different areas. Like I lived in Africa with students there, and I was like, okay, this is probably not the place I would usually go to. But I had amazing experiences there, like a lot of connection, a lot of, learning together. And if somebody would have told me before, okay, you're gonna stay there, this is how your life will look like for like 2 months, I was like, okay, I would not go there probably. But once I was there, it was amazing. And what it also showed me is that we are so kind of attached to our comforts and our things we need every day. that we don't consider this kind of experience initially. But once we're in there, like you could see how freeing it is, how it, yeah, how you can strive also in this kind of surroundings. Or for example, like I always felt like because I'm a single girl traveling, like this would be so like scary, and everybody was like, okay, you're completely nuts, why would you go there? But once I was on the road, actually I always found people to support me, like whenever there was a problem or any like for example, we got into an accident once in Iran, like which could be a nightmare in general, but when I was there, actually suddenly people showed up, people helped, and in the end it was such a connecting experience and showed so much about the local culture that looking back it was a good experience, although like it was dangerous and scary and all that. The journey definitely has changed me, or like going through this experience, like doing things that I was not confident to do. And actually with just the little things sometimes where I feel like, okay, I'm avoiding them because I don't feel I have the skills, or I don't have, I don't know what. But what it definitely changed in me is that I feel like no matter what the situation is, I will always find a way to not only survive in this situation, but also like to really strive to put my mark there, to have an impact. I don't know. Um, so at the moment, I feel like whatever comes up, like whatever the situation will be, I will either have like enough people to actually around the globe, that was part of the journey as well, that I met so many people that will help me in the situation, but also I have the skills inside myself that can guide me or help me to really, yeah, go forward and like don't get stuck in a like kind of fearful position there. I think, I mean, the logical relationship is when you're feared, you kind of, you know, close down or like closed up, and your horizon is like less wide, or like you're focused just on the immediate surrounding, the immediate problem, the immediate activities that are necessary. Whereas um, when you overcame that fear, and when you realized, okay, whatever comes up, I have a solution, I have a way, like this opens a lot of new opportunities that you have would not be able to see before. And what also happens is, what I notice is, especially during the journey, like I could have walked around like really scared of the people around or the situations, but as the confidence grew, and I kind of believed or was taught as well through the journey that there are good people everywhere, like people are willing to help, people are willing to support. I got really, really open, like towards people. Probably sometimes to an extent it was a bit too much, but um, I think what it helps as well to overcome fear is that you're in a position that helps you to be receptive towards new experiences, towards new people, towards new lifestyles, towards new opportunities. So that definitely helped. Like, and freedom is also like it's a freedom of choice, but also like being free of probably judgment or like the fear that's limiting you when approaching people. What I noticed with myself, but also the feedback I got after I talked about the journey and after I shared some stories, is that we're so scared, especially in Western cultures, to lose our comfort, to lose what we have, what we build up for ourselves, which is logical because there was a lot of work put in there. And then, like, linked to that is also, or linked to that, it also plays in there, is that we are so scared of like the process, or the, you know, like not knowing what to do next. Like we feel like everything needs to be planned, it needs to be like clear, we need to know what to do next. And the third one would be that, of course, the unknown, like it's a general thing, I think, in societies, that as soon as something is unknown, it kind of feels scary, which is natural. But that together on my journey, I really realized, like, when I talked to people and shared what I did and how I approached this project or this journey, they were like, okay, yeah, sure, but I could never, for example, sleep there, or I could never not have this kind of food. How did you survive with that? I was like, okay, I mean, it's not that bad. And I mean, I love comfort, and I love to feel well in my surrounding. But I think if we do overdo that, um, it really reduces our freedom. And what the journey showed, and what in general the other projects I do often, is what they show is that even if we give up this kind of comfort temporarily, like, it can improve our well-being, it can help us to move forward, it can, like, probably redirect us in really new ways. And for example, like, it's simple things, like every traveler will know that, for example, I usually have, like, loads of clothes or loads of stuff I would wear every day, and I choose depending on my mood. But when you travel, like, you can't carry all that stuff, so you have to reduce your backpack or your suitcase to a minimum. Otherwise, it would be really, like, awkward or, like, limiting on the journey. So suddenly, like, you just wear the same t-shirt. It was like, okay, like, that feels really weird. Like, I would never do that in Europe, but suddenly, I mean, it doesn't matter, because what matters is that you go out, you do stuff, you go on an adventure, you work with people, you meet people. And this kind of reduction, I never thought I could do that, actually, to live out of a, like, backpack for like 3 months, 4 months. And but suddenly the reduction really helped to, like, free up time, to free up myself to don't care. Because here, of course, like, when you go to your job, you think about, okay, how do I appear, what do I need to feel really comfortable, or, like, confident, or like, what do I need every day to feel content with myself. But suddenly, like, this is really reduced, and you find other ways to feel comfortable. I think that's something that we don't see so much, because we're so much looking for comfortable surrounding, like, having a good life, like, having all we think we need. And another thing, for example, on the journey, like, I'm a big food lover, so I feel like I need good food and, like, good coffee and good stuff every day, or, like, every week at least. And then suddenly I was in an academy in Africa, and I had rice and beans, like, every week, and I was like, oh my god, like, I'm gonna die, like, this is, like, I will feel so bad after a while. But it was okay. Like, of course, like, in between I spoiled myself with some other food, but in general I just had rice and beans for months. So I think that's, like, kind of hindering us, like, this fear of not, like, giving up at least a part of the comfort, at least for a small amount of time, is limiting us to experience new things. And what was the other one? Like, yeah, like, the fear of not knowing the way yet. I think that's something that comes really apparent when you travel, because sure, you have Google, and you have travel forums, and you know a bit or more these days than before. You know what's going to happen, or you know where you're going to go. But still, like, every day you bump into situations where you have no clue, because everything is unknown, and you have to find a way. And I think what happened during the journey is, like, you don't care anymore if something goes wrong. Okay, like, I have to find a solution, like, somehow. And usually, like, the adventure, or the stories that happen because of this kind of way around, or these new solutions, they were much more exciting. And I met a lot of people because something went wrong. And the third one is the one about the unknown. I think after what, like it's not just in travel when you travel, but also when you dive into national area, for example, like sometimes it's really limiting us, or this fear to show that we are vulnerable, that we don't know, or we're not peering professional, or we're not not experts in an area, like really limits us. And it's not just in business, I think it's also like in personal areas, or like even when traveling, like we feel we have to be like experts and in the know for about everything. And especially when you like, because I traveled to so many different countries in like just 12 months, like the cultures are different, so they all have different behavior, they all have different mechanisms how the society works, and like everything is different there, the food, like how you eat it, how you speak, how you approach people. So you're constantly in this kind of learning mode, and everything is kind of new. And because I didn't want to go home in between, or like that was part of it, like you have to go with this flow and learn and try to adapt yourself. And I think that could really also help us, in education, in business, in the society, if we don't claim to be experts, or if we don't see this as highest goal, to be like super um, how do you say, super experienced or super knowing of everything, but keep this kind of explorer mentality, and just be aware, or also be okay with not knowing it all. I think that's important to have a bit of comfort, right? Because then we are more likely to go into new areas, because at least something is stable, or something is giving us a good feeling. And I think that's something that has to be considered as well. Like, if I'm constantly shaking because I'm never really stable or confident in one area, like it's much more challenging to take a leap and to explore new areas, to go to new directions. And yeah, like I think that's for the companies, for clubs, for organizations. I think it's important to provide a bit of comfort, but also to challenge their members, their employees, whatever, to leave these comfort zones, or to leave these areas that we feel well in, or that we are experts in. And I think that has to be done a bit regular, because what I noticed as well is, um, I went on this journey, and I could, like on the journey, I felt like, okay, I could do everything. It doesn't matter. I could go there, and I could go there, and I could do this. And then I came home, and after a few months, you realize, okay, like you lose this self-confidence again, and you're getting so used to your surrounding and your routines and your rituals or whatever, that it gets a bit more out of sight again, this kind of explorer mindset. And I think that's something, it's a very it's a thin line between a bit of comfort and the challenging yourself. From my experience, but also from my business experience, from what I've seen in my own career, what I've seen in other companies, I think there are loads of things that we can do actually. And it's linked to what I said before. I think what's really important to provide a safe space, and like to have this kind of, it doesn't have to be a huge space or like a huge platform that is safe, but at least you need something that you can always go back to. If your fear is like overwhelming, okay, I can go back at least. And I think that's forgotten a lot. And what we talked before as well, with like temporary employment, with like all the crisis at the moment where we don't know where is our safe space. So I think it's important to create it for yourself in a way. So like small areas, small routines, small spaces in your flat, in your family, in your relationships that feel safe. And yeah, then you not only have the freedom, but you're more likely to explore more, you're likely to be more open. You also, I think you're likely to be more tolerant, because I think that's linked to that as well, is get aware of your need for safety. Because for me, I always felt like, okay, I actually don't need safety. I don't care. Like, I just go and do stuff. But that made me, or that got for me apparent during the journey as well. I need some areas or some connections that are safe, where I can share what's struggling, or where I'm struggling and what's challenging me. And I think if I would not have that, or would not have had that, like, fear would kick in much more easy. So what I had, for example, I took small routines that I had here in Austria and took them with me on my journey. So for example, I took a coffee machine with me on the journey, which sounds weird, but it gives you this little feeling of comfort in the morning that allows you to explore the day with a different mindset, or with a different base. So so I think one thing is about the mix between comfort and this explorer mentality. But and then I thought about the companies that are actually really good in giving this freedom and development and purpose. And I think it's quoted a lot, like, you need trust among people. You need to trust, or you need to promote trust in a way that people feel, okay, I can share even if I'm struggling, if I'm feeling fearful, because it will happen. I felt fearful as well during the journey sometimes. Uh, and so the trust also helps people to have this safe space, but also share and talk through their fears or their challenges or their highlights or whatever. And linked to that is like really open communication. Like, I think like I think what limited me before I actually did this journey, I felt I haven't, or like I told myself I have no fears, but still I avoided kind of doing things that were on this list. But once I started to talk with people, and said, okay, I feel uneasy going there because of this and this reason, and the more I talked, the less scared I got, actually. And so it needs, um safe space is not just like in like physically, but also safe spaces in communication, where you can be open, be vulnerable, be hesitant and all that. And talking about being hesitant, I think what is happening right now, and what I see a lot with my students, is they feel like they have to know what they do. And it's valued so high in our culture, like people who know what they want, who have a way, who have a plan, are seen as kind of, the experts, the achievers, the superstars, whereas people who don't know yet what they want, um, are not ranked that high. And I think if we could evaluate it, or if you could, have like not knowing and being on the way, exploring, experimented on the same level as achievement, there would be a big mind shift. And I think there would be loads of different things happening, and it would help to create this culture as well. Um, what else? What I thought this morning, actually, what I learned on the journey as well, because I think there are areas that are, or like events that happened that initially made me like really scared, or like, took my breath, is like I really learned to breathe, which sounds really strange. And I noticed that I'm like, all my life I was just short breath. I was like, jumping from one experience to the other, from one project to the other. And maybe because I also traveled to India and like different places where this is so important, or where it's part of, for example, yogic mindset. I really learned to, whenever I'm scared, to breathe first, or like to, in the morning, even when I'm not scared, to consciously really breathe, like take 20, 30 really deep breaths and like let everything that's bothering me or like blocking me go out. And it's super simple, but if you try, for example, before you go on stage or before you go into a new project or in a trip or whatever, to just calm down by breathing, it makes such an impact. And it's there's also like some biological background to that, because it the oxygen frees up or like reduces the stress and frees up some capacity in your brain that you can use for other things then. What else? I think what was good in my specific example, and what could also help if you think about this question, is like, I think my parents did something amazing. They told us from the beginning, like when we were kids, whatever it is, try it. Like, you know, at least give it a try once. And then you can always decide it's not for me, it doesn't taste well, it doesn't match my personality, whatever. And what happened is, I think, not only did we get less scared, but we got more open to try out areas that were not initially in focus. And that's something like this kind of mindset to try to not be sure to fail, to be a constant learner. I think that could help in many areas as well.